everyone. Are you prepared to uncover the strategies from top HR voices of the country? Welcome back to We Talk Talent Season 5, your guide to decoding the future of the workforce, or if I may say, acing the future with them. Today, I'm super thrilled to welcome Jaspreet Bakshi, partner and India HR leader, Global Capability Center, Marsh McLennan, to the conversation. Jaspreet Bakshi, a seasoned HR professional with 22 plus years of experience, serves as partner and HR leader at Marsh McLennan, offering strategic oversight to the organization's global capability centers in India. He comes from a family who has served in the forces, and with his prior roles at NatWest or RBS, his expertise spans in organization design, executive coaching, and Six Sigma, and a passion for sports and adventure. Buckle up, everyone, because Jaspreet is about to share his game changing insights. But before we dive into the conversation with the leader, let's give him a warm We Talk Talent welcome. Hi, Jaspreet. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Soumya. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to the interaction.
Thank you so much. So, Jaspreet, for my viewers, we're going to start the question with a bit of funnel approach. That's how I have reworked on the entire question line. And we would love to know the broader part first, and as we move to the specifics. On that note, my first question to you is according to you and your industry demands, what kind of skills shortage do you think is causing the talent war? There's a lot of noise about it, and I'm sure the viewers would love to hear. So over to you.
Thank you, Soumya. I think this is a question that many of the leaders, not just HR practitioners, but business also would be dabbling. Let me also try to just qualify this in a and thank you for a very warm introduction. I think a lot of HR practices, a lot of HR experience pre-pandemic has gone up 180-degree change post-pandemic. So me included, a lot of HR practitioners are relearning what the approach should be. Some of the practices that we've been doing earlier may or may not be relevant. So that's very important to keep in mind. So whatever experience was there, trying to make it relevant, very pertinent to the talent market and the talent demand.
Yeah.
If you really see over the last 3 to 4 years, there are 4 or 5 distinct things that have changed. First, the workplace has changed, the workforce has changed, the place of work has changed, the skill set has changed, and the kind of workers, because we're now talking about gig workers, we talk about Gen Zs, and we talk. So there is a whole change that has come in, which many of us are still trying to discover, trying to learn, and trying to understand what it means. Right? With that, with that whole construct, if you now put in place that in a typical organization today, and then I will talk about the Global Capability Center for Marsh McLennan, we have 5 generations working at one given point of time. Different skill set, different background, different experiences, and that's just one GCC, one Global Capability Center. You extrapolate that in the India market, that's the paradigm that we're working on right now. So the whole construct of talent with respect to what is it that we can do from here has changed. A lot of focus in India today on high-end skills like data analytics. Gen AI is the buzzword, to be honest. And again, in the GCC, so our average age is 27. Many of them are much more tech savvy than many of us. So really trying to get to understand that better and look at how do we manage that. And then all this is in context of how do we create more value for the business we support,
Yeah,
right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it
the
does.
context is very different for what probably it was 3 years back.
Absolutely. I think, Jaspreet, you've very effortlessly brought in the people angle. You've talked about the workforce, and the workplace, as we knew, has definitely undergone a huge shift. But you've kind of sprinkled this answer with the business side. I think that is one of those angles that we've been really trying to put out, that HR is just not about people, it is also taking a boardroom seat and it talks about the business. So what a great way to start on that. That pretty much directs me to the next question. And again, I'm going to ask you about some prominent challenges that, in your purview, the organizations in India are facing. And you've talked about the gig workforce, so who better than you to answer this? When it comes to utilizing the gig economy at its full potential, what are some of the top line challenges that we see are there?
I think it's first, so it's very important to quantify what does gig workforce look like, right? Uh, we using this term interchangeably with multiple aspects. There is an aspect of hybrid working. There is an aspect of colleagues or employees saying, I want to not just dedicate myself to work, but also drive that work-life balance and integration, not let go of what is more meaningful for me, like my work, right? It's not just about work, 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 and nothing else, right? That's an important context in the current piece. And the third is it's not just about the normal standard 9 to 6 work. It's about what is the value that I'm able to create at the workplace, right? That's gig. That coupled with multiple options that people have, that coupled with colleagues or employees not wanting to work, then take a break and then the plan, I think now it works very differently, right? So two three pertinent challenges, keeping those things in mind. One, I think talent has much more options today as compared to what they had earlier. Two, new gen population that is coming in, and even colleagues and employees with 3, 5, 7 years of work ex, which is the early part of their career, they're much more aware. Because they're much more aware, they're much savvy on what is it that they want from their role. Money is an important driver which always will remain, but money is not the only driver, right?
Yeah.
I can give a lot of money, but if the work is not meaningful and fulfilling, if the culture is not good, if I'm really not cared for what I do in the organization, I may not want to work, right? And so I look at last year, India GCCs, India tech organizations, and even a lot of India businesses were reeling with a upward of 25 to 30% attrition.
Yeah.
Money was not the concern. The concern was all these elements. So talent, how do you really attract the best talent? That's step one. Once you've got them in, how do you give them meaningful roles and jobs? How do you create a culture where people want to come back and contribute and grow? It's not a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year horizon. And then how do you ensure that you're able to really provide them that ecosystem that they can grow? The best example somewhere is, and again, I go back, I come from an armed forces family, 4 generations armed forces, right? Uh, there were times when our elders used to work for one company for 30, 35 years and get that Titan watch on the retirement. Today, every 1 year, a new age colleague, a Gen Z will come back and say, okay, I've done this, done it. Now tell me what next.
True.
That's the context that has changed for talent.
Absolutely. That is a great example. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Jaspreet. You've talked about a lot of essential elements that are going to be like pretty much the game changers in this pursuit, I feel. But that also brings me a little more deeper, if I could go and talk about the DEI. That is one of the elements that a lot of leaders, that a lot of organizations talking about and working in that direction. So, if you could just throw some light on your DEI agenda, I'm sure the viewers would really gain a lot from this.
So, Sona, if it's okay, and with your permission, I may want to just change the term from DEI to IND, because we believe that it's not just about the diversity, it's also about the true inclusion, right? And it starts with everything that we do day in, day out. So diversity today is not just about gender. It's not
Yeah.
just about an opportunity for colleagues from different background. India, the social economic backgrounds are very, very different. I spoke about 4 to 5 generations. That's a reality that we're dabbling with. Also looking at if there is a colleague who brings in phenomenal skill set and capability and an attitude, but if there is a kind of a disability, can we really create an ecosystem for that colleague to deliver? So
Yeah.
focusing on that. You see me wearing my lanyard, which talks about LGBTQI, right? So diversity is a much broader slate. That's one part. You can bring in the talent. You can bring in a very diverse talent, which we focus on at Marsh McLennan. But then, how are you enabling him in that journey? How are you making sure that once they come in, they're able to do well, they're able to create value for the business, but in turn, they're also able to grow. So the focus for us majorly is inclusion and really looking at that. Uh, it's a journey we've been on, Soumya, to be honest, over the last few years in India. Globally, Marsh McLennan is very, very focused and strong on inclusion and diversity. But what we've been really doing is first, when we started looking at the India Global Capability Center, we started putting focused intervention there. So we started with something known as an India Inclusion Council, not India Diversity Council, India Inclusion Council. Not an HR owned initiative, but an HR and business partnered initiative. Because at the end of the day, the business, the leaders, the colleagues have to really contribute in making a difference there. As a business group, along with them, we identified what are some of the priorities that we want to do. So we for example, on agenda, we are almost at a 49-51% ratio. It's a good number, but we did a little bit more deep dive and realized that there is more to do in terms of providing women colleagues internally more career progression opportunities as they grow up the grades. Right. So what do we do there? Were we doing a lot on looking at colleagues with disabilities, and we realized there is more to do, and we created a disability friendly CRG. We call it colleague resource groups. So again, led by colleagues, led by business. We looked at multi-generational CRG, and we looked at an LGBTQI CRG. So the idea is when you do a focused approach on looking at some of the things you want to do, it puts a better structure. It also can be measured at the end of it, because every effort that you're doing, you should be able to demonstrate what's the value. Right. So I think I don't know if that answers your question, but I'll probably use some as one of, I heard, and this is not my statement. Somebody very senior had said the statement, and it resonates very, very well for me. It's like diversity is being like called for a party. Inclusion is being invited to dance. Right. That's the difference. So focus intervention on really ensuring that our diversity is very strong, but also making sure that we are very, very mindful from an inclusion standpoint.
Absolutely. And I love that spin on DEI to IED. I think that's something very unique that I've heard. So I think kudos to you and the team for believing in something and actually driving it with so much of different flavor, if I could say. So that inclusion really stands out, and that sounds very, very exciting. Uh, Pretty much, I would move to the next part, Jaspreet, that I'm just picking up with what you're sharing. I love that you've said that in your organization you work with 5 generations, right? I think that is pretty much a very difficult job also at times. And if I'm talking about 24, we are sitting right in April. A lot of reports have suggested that this year is going to be a watershed movement when it comes to the Zoomers coming in and the boomers going out. So this is pretty much a big shift that we're experiencing at the workplace. So what is your take on the new generation entering the workforce, and how do their expectations really differ from the previous generations?
There's been a lot of debate somewhere on millennials, and hearing the conversation. I think it's very difficult to manage millennials. I but, on my in my personal opinion, I beg to differ. I think so what has changed? They're more aware. Because they're more aware, they are more savvy about what are the career choices they want to make. Somewhere, if I can give a personal example, when I was coming into the workforce, I still remember there were only distinctly 4 or 5 career options, right? There was engineering, there was a medical, there was an armed forces. Probably hotel management was kicking in, and merchant navy. And I'm being very, very open, right? 5 options. Today, you probably have 500 or 5,000 options. Today, a new age colleague who's just finishing a grad or a post grad says, I don't want to work, I want to probably take a backpacking trip for the first year and do something which is slightly different. So that context is changed, right? Two, they're not looking at the concept of lifetime employment is not on the top of their mind, right? In growing up years, the statement that we have heard from a family, and I'm trying to bring in the Indian cultural aspect from a workforce, right? Get settled, pick up a job, and then there are subsequent actions. That's what we had heard when we were growing up. That's not the context today.
Mm,
So,
right.
is it difficult to manage them? I don't think so. As long as you are able to provide a very good, meaningful job to them, as long as you're able to involve and engage them, because they don't like to be told what to do. They want to have a view, they want to have a say in what is getting done. So engagement becomes very, very critical. Two, there's a term that we keep hearing, Gen Zs and they want instant gratification. No. What they want is real-time feedback and input on what they're doing well and what they can do better. Not at the end of a year in a performance review cycle. Right? So this workforce is much more aware, much more tech savvy. Because of that, they demand more. They have more options. They are vocal, and surprisingly, with all this, Soumya, they can create immense value. So as I said, I started with that. Right, I'm still learning and unlearning. I have two of my
Yeah.
colleagues who are reasonably young as compared to me, and they are my mentors. So we have a reverse mentoring framework, and I'm learning coding from them right now because I know I have to stay relevant, and that's the
Awesome.
population that can do it. So
Yeah.
bringing all that to life, I think it's slightly different in terms of what we're used to as management, but yeah, it's good to work with this population.
Absolutely. I think you've pretty much demystified the hype around it. Jaspreet, thank you so much. This was really, really like phenomenal for us. A lot of threads that you've shared, you've talked about the employee engagement a lot. And that pretty much segues me to the next part of the question that how are your employee engagement strategies? And especially when we talk about the remote and the hybrid work setup. So, what is something that you would like to share with the viewers?
Uh, so again, and I'm sure you have a good understanding, but let me just so I'm talking majorly from the GCC, Marsh McLennan
Yeah,
GCC, which is
of course.
approximately 9,000 colleagues, and we have a sizable business presence in India, which is different. Uh, the population that I'm talking about, Global Capability Center, is majorly an operations and a technology hub,
Yeah,
right? Different workforce, different configuration, different kind of skill set and backgrounds that they're there. So for every colleague, the context of engagement is different. Uh,
absolutely.
Engagement in the current context, and especially post-pandemic, cannot be a broad brush approach. Right. So you really have to look at what works for different people, what works for different population. There are certain basic minimum thresholds that we want to ensure that we provide to all colleague, irrespective of role, level, business line, etc. Right. So, for example, our whole focus on inclusion and diversity is one aspect which we are very, very proud of, and that's an important tenet of engagement. Making sure that colleagues get the right learning path, right support in terms of their career enrichment is a critical part, and that's a minimum threshold for us. Making sure that colleagues get one consistent experience when they're part of Marsh McLennan, whether they're part of Marsh business or Mercer business or technology, irrespective, they're part of Marsh McLennan. So one experience, right? That's one element of engagement which is very, very critical. And then that's a standard that gets across. Then comes in within that talent population that you have, there'll be some colleagues who are extremely sharp, who are extremely fast, who want multiple things to dabble in. And can we provide them more opportunities to learn? Can we provide them more opportunities to grow? Right. So how do we provide that ecosystem for them? And we have opportunities to job shadowing, to rotations, to define career paths, to a lot of opportunities there, because these are the colleagues. For them, learning and continuous learning is a key part. There is another set of population who says, you know what, I enjoy my work, but I'm a biking enthusiast. Can I bring in a group of bikers and the Marsh McLennan Universe in India together, and can I create a community? Right. So some of the point that we are very, very mindful of is engagement is a lot about belongingness to the team, the franchise, the organization that I work for. So we do that. There are a lot of, just before this, I was in a session. We were on a social impact event today. Social impact is a CSR event. We
Yeah.
were 45 kilometers away from Gurgaon, and we were working on a pond that we have just invested in, and we're trying to really work with the villages. It is again led by colleagues. There are a lot of colleagues who are very passionate about that. Now, that's a critical engagement lever for them. So, not a broad brush, a multifaceted approach in terms of that. But yeah, what is common remains is our unique colleague value proposition. What remains same is our focus on the right culture or learning or care, our focus on inclusion, our focus on providing career paths to people. And then we build that further.
Absolutely. I think,
I don't know if that answers
talk,
your question, but it's
yeah, it does.
multifaceted
It
approach.
does. In fact, I was just spinning my head around it, and I was hoping that we talk so much about the employer value proposition, but today we are talking about the unique employee value proposition, and this actually sounds that we are pretty much in the right direction. This is like a great shift that I'm experiencing today. And thank you for putting that out for the viewers, Jaspreet. I think that's very, very helpful. So
No,
thank you.
I'm glad, Tom. And again, we've consciously moved away from the using the term employee colleague because that's a critical part of that. As an HR practitioner, our role does not get limited to just bringing in the right talent.
Mhm.
After you're bringing in the right talent, what is it that you do to really create that culture and ecosystem that they want to stay, they want to perform, and they want to grow? And then this is not just HR manage.
Yeah.
It is HR is a facilitator, right? But how do you create that ecosystem is an important.
Absolutely. I think that partnership is very, very critical. So you spotlighted that for us. Thank you so much. Jaspreet, I know we started an interaction with a couple of challenges. And as I'm moving towards the end part of it, I'm going to still come back to one of the other side of the challenges with you. And this talks about that if you could just share some of the most prominent, maybe if you could just want to number it like 2 to 3 challenges that you faced in the space of talent acquisition and few strategies to overcome them. So that'll be very wholesome.
So, so as I said, in the global capability center, where there are multiple functions or multiple roles that we're really trying to build, and I think it's India GCC is part of the larger ecosystem for Marsh McLennan, right? So we're really trying to augment and strengthen the talent that we have here. Uh, there are 2 or 3 distinct pieces that we have been working on, which have been challenging, but it also provides an opportunity in terms of how to build further. The first is we have doubled in size over the last 36 months. We grew very, very fast. At the time of pandemic, India created an immense value for our Marsh and Mercer global businesses to really ramp up operations in India to create partnership there and do that, right? We got in a lot of colleagues. How do you culturize them in a short period of time to understand what the Marsh McLennan ways of working and philosophy is, right?
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of focus in that. Having brought in people, and then we were at a stage where we were ramping up. In talent acquisition, there is a very important strategy known as build versus buy.
Bye. Yeah.
2 years back, we were in the buy phase. Last year, we changed gears and say, okay, we've gotten some good talent. Now, how do we really not focus externally, but focus internally to provide a lot of learning and career paths to our colleagues? So we've completely switched, and at a senior level, 3 grades, we are focusing 95% into build instead of buy. So retaining that talent becomes an extremely important element for us. So that's one ongoing focus area that I'm sure many organizations are dabbling with. That's one. Two, like many organizations, we also lost a lot of talent in the last 18 months and multifaceted, right? It was not just about um, lack of opportunities here, but there's a sizable young population who at times do get swayed by the lure of money and stocks and everything that were there. We saw what happened in the industry in the last 18-24 months, right? When a lot of startups, a lot of new age companies were giving a lot of money.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, and I think it's something which we reflect back and we're very proud of, we also have a sizable percentage of colleagues who have come back to us. There's a term we use loosely, and again, please don't quote me, we call it boomerang candidates.
Yeah.
It's a testimony that colleagues want to come back because this is the right organization, they've seen the value, they've seen the culture. But important for us is how do we create and leverage very solid alumni networks, because those are the people who know the organization well. Those are the people who, if we come back, can hit the ground running faster for us and they
Yeah.
understand the culture better. So that's a second piece because again, it's not just about reducing the attrition numbers, but also continuing to do that. That's two. Third, there is one specific piece that we have been wanting to do and we're trying to build on. That is, uh, we focus a lot on early careers or campus. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a very embedded strategy that cuts across. So in the GCC space, we have Marsh operations, Mercer operations, Guy Carpenter operations. We have Marsh Tech, Mercer Tech. We have an application management support. Sorry, I'm just throwing some jargons to you, but the point is there are 9 or 10 functional domains that sit across. Can we have one comprehensive early career strategy that provides a colleague, and especially this young age population who want to do something new and different every 1.5, 2 years?
Mhm.
If I go to a campus and say, you know what, I can give you an opportunity to dabble with 6 or 7 cutting edge things over the next 5 to 7 years,
Yeah,
I have a good proposition. Right.
absolutely.
So early career. So I won't say it's a challenge for us, but it's a very, very key focus area for us as we really
Yeah,
move forward. So three different things: build versus buy. That's an important element. Boomerang candidates and alumni network, which is a focus area, and early careers.
absolutely. I think at Marsh McLennan, you believe in redefining a lot of contours, maybe the IED or making that transition and being so candid about it. We've spoken so much, and honestly, a lot of leaders have said that it's a paradox. It's a build versus buy paradox. But you've come here and you've told us that it has been a reverse journey for you. Maybe you started with the buy one, but now you've moved build, and that's very empowering to the entire brand. So that's
It's
just
important.
amazing.
So it's important. So
Hmm.
we continue to bring in new, fresh talent from campuses.
Absolutely.
But as they move up, the focus is how do we provide them. So we have something known as defined career paths, DCP's framework, which provides an opportunity with that. Right? I briefly touched on the gender focus.
Yeah,
We are conscious that though we have a good diversity ratio, but as the population moves up the ladder, the ratio does come down. So, very structured program, for example, for women leadership development framework. Almost 100 plus colleagues, women colleagues have gone through. Now, I'm conscious that leadership is gender agnostic, but
yes,
because you have to provide that opportunity, sometimes you have to do a focused intervention. Right. So
absolutely.
we are mindful of where the gaps are, but we are also very mindful that it's a broad, it's an inclusive organization that cuts across horizontally.
Yeah. And you guys are not afraid of trying new things or rewiring the old, if I could say.
It's important.
That is
You
the
you have to
summer.
stay relevant, right? A lot of focus for us. Somewhere we are into a very interesting workspace, right? We, as Marsh McLennan, we are into health, wealth, and career business from Mercer. We are into reinsurance business. We are into strategic risk advisory business. We are in people's business, right?
Yeah,
Clients' demands are changing drastically. If we do not invest in our people to help them understand what the changing paradigm is or changing demands is,
yeah,
how will we create that skill set which is required for future? Right. So
absolutely.
that's where we are trying to be very, very mindful of. It's a journey, so I mean, we're still continuing to work on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a genuine intent from the business leaders to really drive that.
Absolutely. I think all I can share with my viewers is Jaspreet represents a brand that is set to challenge the old and absolutely head on take the future. That is the best of the both the worlds that they represent. This has been an amazing interaction, Jaspreet. Thank you so much for sharing all these anecdotes with us. They made the conversation really, really great. And I'm sure my viewers had a lot of takeaways. So a heartfelt thank you to you.
Thank you so much, and enjoyed the conversation. As I mentioned, two things. One, uh, as an HR practitioner, I am still learning and I'm still
Yeah,
evolving to understand what the new paradigm is. So
absolutely.
continuing to work through that, learn through these interactions, learn through that. Two, for all prospective employees and colleagues who are interested to know more about what are the kind of opportunities at Marshmallow, feel free to reach out. I think it's we're really looking at strengthening and building our centers in India. A lot of opportunities, not just on the GCC side, but also on the business side. So
Yeah,
if you're interested in doing something interesting and meaningful, and more importantly, contribute in shaping the culture. Ping me. Happy to connect.
Speaking. As I could just sum up the discussion today with Jaspreet, I think I'm going to quote Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." And this conversation has just been the walk the talk for that one. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I had absolute lovely time interacting with Jaspreet and learning so much more. I hope you also found a lot of value. Do let us know how we fared on your expectations. And as Jaspreet said, if you're willing to change things, please feel free to connect with them. He'll be more than happy to, take the conversation forward. On that note, thank you so much for joining in. Stay tuned for the next episode coming from the We Talk Talent series. Thank you, everyone.